Was the first gong. Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service for the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Lake Norman. We are an open and inclusive congregation. Being UUs, of course, our members walk very diverse paths to find meaning and purpose. But we're united by our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all, and by the responsibility to express our faith through acts of justice and compassion. My name is Sandy McFeely, and I've been an active member of this congregation since 2013. A quick technical note, because COVID-19 is still on the rise, we're staying with this live via Zoom format for a while. What you will see and hear is happening live from various places around the state. We are grateful to Autumn Weathers for being firmly at the controls and for posting a recording of the service on the website and on YouTube afterward. During the service itself, you and the congregation will have your Zoom connection muted. After the chalice is extinguished, it's entirely your call when and whether to join in the chat. Everyone, members, friends, and especially visitors, is invited to the chat to talk with our guest speaker, our minister, and with each other. Our speaker today is Reverend Dr. Edward Boye. He's authorized me to say that he's a retired Methodist minister, a retired pastoral clinical psychotherapist, and a friend of Pat Jobe. He's also been a regular in our post-service chats during the pandemic. This is his second visit to our pulpit. Today, his sermon title is Catfish, Cornbread, and Crazy People. It's about being able to see more than our eyes can tell us. I also detect a bit of Southern cliche in the title, but we'll see. Our opening words today are from Will Rogers. Strangers are just friends I haven't met yet. How many of us really believe this? Most of us are afraid, in our age of violence and street crime, to look at another person, much less look into the eyes of a stranger and call him friend. And now Mike Alec will take us with his music into a time of worship and contemplation and optimism. Thank you, Mike. When we gather as a community, we light a chalice and offer a thought about what it means to do so. Today's chalice lighting words are these: We light this flaming chalice to illuminate the world we seek. In our search for truth, may we be just. In our search for justice, may we be loving. And in loving, may we find peace. A brief word about joys and sorrows. Ours is a spiritual and caring community where we find our joys amplified and our sorrows lessened. We would ordinarily take this time to share our personal joys and sorrows, but many are too personal and private for so public a space. The chat time after the service will be available. And of course, Reverend Pat is always ready to provide pastoral care. For right now, we recognize and embrace all those joys and concerns that remain in our hearts unspoken. Today's story, for all ages, will be told by Reverend Ed Boye.
This account of classroom lesson was given at a high school. It's taken from a Facebook page by Pat Jobe. Thanks, Pat. The students were learning about the Salem witch trials, and the teacher told them they were going to play a game. I'm going to come around and whisper to each of you whether you're a witch or a regular person. Your goal is to build the largest group possible that does not include a witch in it. At the end, any group found with a witch in it has a failing grade. The teens drove into grilling each other. One fairly large group formed, but most of the students broke into small exclusive groups, turning away anyone they thought gave off a hint of guilt. Okay, the teacher said, you've got your groups. Time to find out which ones failed. All witches, please raise your hands. No one raised their hand. The kids were confused and said to the teacher, you messed up the game. Did I? Was anyone in Salem actually a witch? Or did everyone just believe what they had been told? This is a great lesson on how to teach kids and any of us. It's easy to divide a community. Be welcoming. Include all persons, especially the ones who are on the sidelines and are shunned. Excluding people because they are different is far more hurtful and destruction to all, including ourselves. I want to share another story with you this morning, a true one. I can testify to that, I was there. A colleague and I, serving chaplain internships in the mental facility, had the idea of taking 8 patients with severe mental disorders fishing. A little like Jack Nicholson did in the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. We escorted them with permission from the locked ward unit to a nearby pond once a week for 10 weeks to catch catfish. The story is about a final gathering. 5:30 Tuesday afternoon, Corey, Susan, and I were running around the activities building kitchen in preparation for a catfish meal for Unit 1 fishing group. Do you know how to make cornbread, Susan? I asked. No, I don't, she responded. We'll never get this meal ready in time, I said. Susan suggested, maybe some of the patients could help. Hey, that's what this is all about. We all caught the fish, so it should be a joint effort, I said, with private reservations about whether they would be stable enough to work together. I rushed down to Unit 1, where the room seemed like vaults in a tomb, and found the group gathered in anxious anticipation. Someone asked, Chaplain, is it ready for us? I told them, no, we are going to prepare this meal together. They looked at me with surprise and reservations. We gathered outside the unit by my car. Have you ever heard of cramming a car with 9 adult people, I asked. Duncan said, that's what we did in Florida when I was back home. I responded with a smile. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do in my old Mercury. Okay, 5 in the back, 4 in the front. Jimmy, you sit on Arlie's lap. Lenny, you have to sit on John's lap. Nah, I'll just walk, he said, looking at his shoes. No, we want you to join us. Come on, Lenny. Well, if I have to sit in somebody's lap, I'm not going. That's up to you, I said. He started back up the walk to the unit, stopped, turned, and then ran back. Okay, I'll go. Up the hill we went, 8 plus 1 crazy person, crammed in a car like pretzels. The group had such deep wounds that they normally shied away from others, but they began laughing and enjoying the closeness and the touching. I had a feeling that something was happening here that was beyond the human condition. As we entered the building, I anticipated chaos in the kitchen with 8 patients, 2 chaplain trainees, a social worker trying to prepare food in that small room. Once we settled down, everyone took a job with no arguments, no hassle, no weird behavior. Susan learned how to make coleslaw with Agnes, leading the way. Larry, who usually wanted to do things his way, helped Betty mix the cornbread batter. Corey and John fixed the field peas. Arlie and I rolled the thawed fish and cornmeal. Bill, Kevin, and Duncan set the table. I stepped back watching the activity with the thought, what is happening here? These are people with severe mental illness from a locked ward in a state mental hospital. They are working together, laughing, joking, having a normal conversation, but they're sick. We're not attending to their problems, their hallucinations, their delusions. Suddenly, the greatest delusion of all became clear, my own. There was a long table with 3 platters filled with golden brown catfish, 2 bowls of field peas, 2 plates of cornbread, and a large bowl of slaw, 11 glasses of iced tea. Everyone was standing silently, and someone looked at me and said, "Preacher, you're going to ask a blessing, aren't you?" Spontaneously, Corey took Susan's hand, Susan took mine, and everyone connected in a circle. In my state of awe, I felt the presence of our oneness and the one who said, "For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there with them." I blessed our group, each person in their journey toward healing, and gave thanks to the Holy Spirit for obviously uniting us and for the food. As we sat down, I noticed there were 4 places set on each side of the table and 1 setting at each end. That's only 10. Then I noticed the stout old man who once told me how much he missed having catfish meal, making a place for himself at another table. Someone said, "Wait a minute, Arlie. We cannot have the catfish chef sitting by himself." Everyone eagerly moved around and made a place for him between Corey and Susan. The victuals were passed around. I said, "Arlie, someone told me you'd already eaten in the cafeteria." He looked up with a mouthful of cornbread and grinned from ear to ear. During the feast, there were periods of laughter, joking, expressions of pleasure of the food. There was also quiet with only the sound of chewing. It was during those times that I was most aware of the hunger and thirst of these people. Toward the end of the meal, Larry asked me, "Who is responsible for all this? I mean, whose idea was it to take the group fishing and then have this meal?" I replied, "Corey and I thought it up together." Larry announced, "I feel like the group should show their appreciation with a good hand." There was a moment of enthusiastic clapping. Corey and I looked at each other, fully aware of the tears of joy within us. Another gift was being part of Sonny's journey with fishing. He had never been fishing, but wanted to go with the group. One afternoon, I asked Arlie and Sonny to help me clean the fish. While I was squatting there with a headless, bloody fish body, Sonny asked with a twisted face, "You mean people eat those?" I asked, "You don't think you could eat one of these?" With a look of disgust, he said, "No, are you kidding me?" I wondered where his father had been all Sonny's life and relived memories of my dad and I in the backyard as he showed me how to clean slimy catfish. During the meal, Sonny looked around at me with a grin on his face. He said, "You know, these are pretty good." After the feast, we sat around visibly filled and satisfied in so many ways. This experience awakened me to my own illusions about cure and fixing. I felt like I had glimpsed what Christ meant when he talked about drinking from the well that satisfies your thirst and eating the bread of life. Pretense, barriers, fear, and certainly anger disappeared that evening in the community building of a fenced compound designed to keep crazy people where we think they should be. The reason I share this story is to stimulate us to think about the ways we look at the world, especially how we see and label others. We are naturally prejudiced, all of us. We judge people by the way they dress, act, talk, skin color, man, woman, body size, and so forth. According to Gordon Allport, an American psychologist, prejudice and stereotypes emerge in part as a result of normal human thinking. We are simply inundated with too much information to sort through it all in a logical, methodical, rational fashion unless we take time to organize it into classifications. In order to make sense of the world around us, it's important to sort information into mental categories, sort of like a metal filing cabinet. Unfortunately, this quick categorization leads to faulty assumptions that have mostly a negative impact on people and the world at large. We prejudge. We see repetitive behavior in a person or a group of people, and we automatically place them in an impersonal and generic group. African American in a hoodie, gang member. Someone wearing a red rebel flag t-shirt, ignorant redneck. A male or a female with mannerisms or look of the opposite sex, gay or lesbian. Someone sitting next to a building on a sidewalk, homeless. Or someone talking to themselves or acting strange, mentally ill. Since we don't know them or their story, they become objects or groups organized by agreed upon common characteristics. For the most part, it's not motivated by disgust or negative feelings toward the person, but an ingrained need to organize our thinking. When this happens, we miss experiencing them as individual beings with feelings, souls, wisdoms, and even gifts to give. In actuality, we become the arrogant ones that are cutting ourselves off from connecting with another being with compassion and often an opportunity for surprising discoveries. One evening, sitting at a table at a homeless shelter, I was talking with a man staying there. He said something very profound and philosophical that I thought would never expect from someone in that situation. I was shocked. I already had him classified as uneducated without motivation to make something of himself because he was in a homeless shelter. We had a continuing conversation that was very enlightening. He taught me, a somewhat arrogant graduate student. Rabbi Shamil ben Nachmani, a rabbi born in Babylonia in the end of the 3rd century, made this statement. We do not see things as they are. We see things as we are. Think about that for a minute. We do not see things as they are. We see things as we are. This Talmudic quote is stating that seeing is not always vision. What we see in life is more than what the eye beholds. A person or circumstances right in front of us can be just the surface someone, or if we take time, they become something more profound. You may have heard of the Stockholm Syndrome. It's a complex description of hostages developing a relationship with their captors. It is believed that the hostages during long siege begin to see their captors no longer as a threat, but as human beings with a personality and a soul, and they develop compassion for them because they relate to their life and struggles. It's the same story of lawyers becoming emotionally and romantically involved in their imprisoned clients. We have these bodies, these containers, or I like to say earthly spacesuits. All we see is this being in a suit or an earthly costume. Upon closer look, the clothing, the rags begin to disappear. This happens when we take time to wonder who this person is and then focus on them. How did she get here? How does he feel? What are their dreams? The best place to begin with a simple 4-word statement. Tell me about yourself. What a warm, non-threatening way to approach a person. This gives them the freedom to share with you what they want you to know. We're more than our outward appearance. We must get the person to raise that darkened visor of the spacesuit in order to see the depth of who they really are. To set aside this natural prejudice and allow ourselves to spend time with a person is to discover a beautiful soul. Not only do we learn, we also give. When we genuinely spend time and focus on a person, you are saying, you are important. You are of value. This stood out in the movie The Help, where the maid said to the little girl, you is kind, you is smart, you is important. What a gift to give a little girl who was just an object to her parents. What a motto to carry with us as we see and meet people to make them feel of value. I had some of the most rewarding and loving experiences as a chaplain in a mental hospital on the children's ward. It housed those physically and mentally challenged, Down syndrome, brain damage, hydrocephalic. I will never forget one particular hydrocephalic child with an enormous head larger than his little body. His name was Junior. He lay in a crib 24/7. I would visit every day. I would reach over into the crib and he would grip my finger and I would play trying to get away and he would grip harder. The most beautiful smile would fill the room from his cleft palate lips. He knew me, I knew him. I felt so blessed. I realized that I was seeing this child's inner being. I no longer focused on his distorted body. It was very apparent one day when I was training a new intern to take over being chaplain for the unit. I was carrying around a Down syndrome child who was hugging me fiercely around the neck while plastering me with sloppy kisses. I looked around and the intern was backed up against the wall in some out of state of fear and shock. He was putting Jimmy in a classification and hadn't had time to get beyond the category to the real authentic being who had unbridled love to give. There's tremendous beauty in getting beyond our objectifying people. We don't have enough time to spend to get to the point of meeting every soul, but we can be more aware of seeing a person rather than looking at the prejudicial label. And a great way to slow down is to realize one of the greatest gifts we can give and receive is to spend time with those who are often kept in boxes, isolated, or rejected from the rest of humanity. Can you imagine, instead of dropping coins in a cup of a homeless person sitting down on a sidewalk, sitting down beside them and hearing their story? Just the fact that we stop and take time with those who we see are suffering puts them closer to being a being of worth. Even if we don't have time to focus on each individual, we can still boost the worth of a person with an act that you may have likely heard called paying it forward. Paying it forward is a phrase which means if something good happens to a person, he or she turns around and does good for someone else. The idea is that instead of paying back the person who has helped you, the good deed is passed forward to someone else. It is an act of well-being for the whole of society. Paying it forward is stepping outside of our own self-interest and loving the world. We want a better, more peaceful, compassionate world. It has to start somewhere. When we do something for a stranger, who knows whether that stranger will carry it on? It doesn't matter. We must make the first move. It creates an energy that could affect a person living in a slum in India in ways we cannot fathom. This is called the butterfly effect. Some small movement here can eventually be felt on the other side of the world. This is especially true in an act that is filled with our love and spiritual energy. Can you imagine the surprise and warm feeling it has on a person to drive up to the carryout window to be told that the person ahead of them just paid for their meal, or pay for someone's groceries, These acts of paying it forward work best if it's done without the other person knowing. These acts of paying it forward, well, the numerous opportunities to pay it forward, just look for persons in need. It doesn't always have to be paying cash for something. Your intention is to pay it forward. The opportunities will present themselves. The dog fence ministry is a type of paying it forward. Hopefully, it inspires the person who owns the dog to also pay it forward. Spending time with someone to convey that they're of worth, or someone being surprised with a gift from a stranger is a way to be a part of people on the planet who want to start a pandemic of love. By the way, we associate the word pandemic with widespread disease. The word originates from the word pan, meaning all, and demos, meaning people. Can we actually comprehend a pandemic of love, compassion, and respect for all people? It takes only one person to infect another with the spirit of compassion and worth. What an incredible effect it would have on the planet if every day, every one of us intentionally took time to spend a moment or 30 minutes with a stranger, showing them that they are worth because you care. Every time I attend coffee hour that we have, maybe we ought to call it soul sharing or human affirming hour, I learn a little bit more about you and your journey. I love hearing your stories. I'm looking forward to our meeting in person so I can corner some of you and learn more about your journey. Who knows? Maybe we can have communion with Catfish and Cornbread. We already have the crazy people. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Ed. That was lovely, timely, and not merely Southern. It was a pan talk for everyone. And now Mike Alec will reflect, I think, very well what we've just heard from Reverend Ed.
Sing along if you know it. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can
hear all obstacles in my way.
Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. I think I can make it now, the pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Give me the rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Look all around, nothing but blue skies. Look straight ahead, nothing but blue skies. You can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. That was absolutely perfect.
Thanks. It's a feel-good one, huh?
We are grateful for the contributions so many of you make to this fellowship. They allow us to sustain and grow our congregation and to confirm our commitment to the larger community. You will find our mailing address on the website, the Facebook page, and in the newsletter. Many opportunities to give, including places to volunteer actual services. The most important announcement we have today is that, I know you've been waiting for it, postcard season has begun. We're partnering with the UU Justice NC and other nonpartisan organizations to send postcards to individuals with reminders and other encouragement to vote in the upcoming election. Our first project is to help tell hundreds of voters in nearby Union County that they have been removed from the voter rolls in that county and give them some ideas about how they can get re-registered to vote. We think most of the voters will be, or unregistered voters will be writing to our people of color. Postcard kits. They will contain all the supplies and information and stuff that you need to write and send 25 postcards per kit. So far, we have requests from volunteers for 20 kits. Quick in your head math, that's 500 people our congregation will be writing to, and that's just so far. We do need to tell you, UU Justice NC, by this coming Wednesday, the total number of kits we'll need for this project. So please let me know soon if you're interested. The Tuesday movies are up and running. There was rather a bleak streak of movies that were deemed, let's say, not appropriate to our group's age and level of sophistication, but we have some good ones coming up. Contact Linda Heidenberg if you're interested. The UU book group will be deciding this week whether to read Nomadland, on which the movie of the same name was based, or Color of Law, how our government at all levels segregated America. Both got equal votes in the last round. We'll announce the results and the Zoom discussion date soon. Please check the newsletter for more messages, including, starting last week and continuing, some notes on UU values that always bear repeating. We are grateful to Regina for adding them. Our closing words today are from a UU minister, Wayne B. Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down, there's another truth. You are not alone. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. And we invite everyone to stay for the chat. Unmute yourselves